And, I think I can probably speak for having talked to all of you all, and I'm grateful to call all of you guys friends as well, is that none of us are, necessarily like experts in anything in particular, but like, well, actually, I take that back. There's expertise on this panel, and a lot of experience. I just mean like, I don't want to come at this as like, we have all the answers and we know everything. I really want this to be more of like a round table discussion and mastermind. So I'm sure you guys all have unique perspectives as well, and really want it to be like collaborative and intentional, because selfishly for myself, I know I haven't mastered content yet. I'm like really trying and getting in the reps and getting experience and learning a lot. But I still have a lot to learn. And so selfishly, this is an amazing panel today to help educate myself and educate everybody in this room. So thanks everybody for being here. And yeah, let's just pass it around and do a little bit of an introduction. We have Alejandro, Justin, and of course, our man Fitz. Fitz, kick it out.
I guess I should use this mic, right? If you don't know me, my name is Fitzroy, co-founder with Kareem, Dimitri, and Des of Content Sunday. We started this a few years ago just because we needed some time and a day to do what we like and kind of share that time with someone else. We've learned that we weren't the only people. So we've met so many others who have had the same sentiment. Everyone wants to be able to go outside and meet someone next to them, or really see their neighbor and find out that they have the same interests. And so that's where we are 2 years now into it. We're going into year 3, which is awesome. And we've learned a lot, but really we've learned a lot from what everyone has shown us in the sense of, community and collaborating. And everyone that I've met up here is probably because of Content Sunday, and I can call them friends. I can call a lot of people in the room friends now because of that. So we are your content experts, but what's been awesome is we've also grown to be community experts, networking experts, and quite a bit more. So appreciate you guys for coming.
Well, it's hard to top that from my guy Fitz. So beautifully said. My name is Justin Kelsey. I have done a couple things throughout Charlotte here. Most recently started something called Chili Coffee Club, a wellness event series that happens once a month, bringing together DJs and music and saunas and you name it, just bringing the community together to be healthy, listen to music, have a good time. But before that, had my hands in a lot of different projects. Started in corporate finance, worked in corporate strategy at the bank. Basically realized I was not aligned with who I was as a person and creatively. So I started a little ad agency that actually was started in this studio that we're in now back in 2020. We ran that company for 3 years out of the studio, shot about 6,000 video ads over the course of 3 years before we sold it to an agency in New York. And then I started a tech company, ran that for 3 years, ended up failing and shutting it down, which was so many lessons that we can probably get into at some point. If you ever want to start a tech company, definitely talk to me before you do it. Yeah, just it's been a wild journey. All that being said, like the core foundation of everything I've done on my end has been creativity, content, and community. So this is a perfect, perfect group to talk with, and really excited to just kind of share lessons we've learned throughout that journey. And I'm excited to call almost every one of you here a friend of mine. But,
Wow. Please, round of applause for these two gentlemen. They're building community on the ground up. My name's Alejandro. First and foremost, I'm a father, and I'm a husband. This is my son, Mateo. One of the things I was telling the boys here is like, I like my son to experience things, not just witness them. So I appreciate you guys making room for him. I'm just a serial entrepreneur. I've been in media for about 15 years, dropped out of Harvard, sold a media company for 50 million. And then I did a content strategy and acquisitions at Verizon, buying multi-billion-dollar media companies like Yahoo, AOL, Awesomeness TV, Disney, Star Wars, things of that nature, integrating them. I've also failed a lot, so I know the feeling. Like, don't let those accolades get in the way. I've been in blockchain since 2014, AI since 2018, really seeing it from the ground up. And one of the things that I really love about tech is being at the intersection of tech, culture, and like really the movement of what's going to go on. Most notably, I started recently, actually, about 5 years ago, we started this company called Now Media. It started off as an Instagram account, and we scaled it to 3.5 million uniques, 12 million in ARR, really getting into the who's who of clients, locking in Christie's, Porsche, Mercedes. That's just the ones I have on top of my head, like Meta. We did events across the world in Asia and Miami and New York and Europe. totaling over 23,000 people across the board and bringing digital art to museum grade quality. And the reason why I know Fitz and the reason why I'm here is because I wanted to do a documentary on North Carolina's digital infrastructure, and I wanted to do a pure play of finding content creators who were really North Carolina. So it was like a North Carolina for North Carolina. And I went looking on Instagram and I DM Fitz. I was like, yo, I have this crazy idea. I want to shoot a documentary about the digital infrastructure here in North Carolina. And Fitz and I spent, like 4 or 5 months together, chopping it, traveling back and forth, everyone from congressmen to state senate, state leaders to founders and things of that nature. But one of the things I really just want to take away from this whole thing is that everything came through the glory of God, but also like me taking a shot,
Mm.
right? Like DMing somebody, cold calling, doing it, just showing up from that perspective and letting go of reality for a second, right? Like just being just delusional enough to make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Alejandro and Justin and Amphitz. Yeah, everyone here has such a unique, great story, and excited to kind of chop it up. I didn't really introduce myself very well. Founder of Skylink Drones, Skylink Media, now based out of this production studio here, as well as Linxy, our live social tech platform, helping people find in real life events and communities. But just to circle back, Alejandro, to you, which obviously you had a really unique experience that you had this Instagram channel and it started to like really create a lot of momentum and grew to millions and millions of followers, and then obviously sold for millions of dollars thereafter. And it all started with an Instagram page. And I think it's obviously a really unique journey that you had there. And now I'm curious to get your take and kind of kick off the panel really to discuss, because it's never been easier to start an Instagram page and to create content. AI is making it even easier and easier, which is part of the problem as a content creator, because it's creating so much noise in social media right now. It's like it's just so much content. And I think like I would love to hear your take on how you think about that, and like how you like really form your signal. Like when you're putting out content, the way I think about like a signal through the noise, it like cuts through all of the noise and stuff that's happening on social media, and you start to put out your signal, and people are going to see that signal and receive it, and it's gonna like it's gonna find and resonate with the people that it's meant for. But you have to be like super clear on like who you are, what you do, and why you do it. Like that's how I think about your signal statement: who you are, what you do, and why you do it. And I would ask you, Alejandro, like how do you think about that? Like, was Now Media like super clear on like what signal it was trying to send out, and how did you kind of like think about cutting through that noise on social media?
That's an excellent question. The way that we thought about Now Media was really about, it was a zeitgeist moment with NFTs where people in 2020, 2021, they were just locked up and Ethereum magic internet money was around. And so people were like really, really kind of looking for community and for common denomination around that same language. At the time, there was this thing called Clubhouse. I don't know if many of you even remember Clubhouse from that perspective, where you're just on there for like 10, 12 hours a day. But the way that we figured it out was just like have a common language with consistency and a high quality standard of excellence, right? Like people really do love values, morals, integrity. And as long as your brand resonates with that and you kind of project that, people kind of come through it. I feel that in the age of AI, it's never been easier to stand out. Actually, I have this thesis called the Birkin bag of content. How many of you are familiar with what a Birkin bag is? Yeah, so Hermes sells this bag named after the actress Birkin, but you have to get on a list. You have to go through here. Like you can't just walk into a store and spend 10 grand and they'll give it to you. It's actually this thing that's highly curated in a craft. But they spend about 5 to 10,000 hours crafting a single Birkin bag, right? And the gold is actually 24 karat gold, the brushes. So what you're buying is craft. You're buying time. You're not buying the actual physical material. So what I do and what we actually navigate on is creating the Birkin bag of content, right? Like showcasing your craft, showcasing that your content actually respects your community, your user. It adds value to it. And today, one of the things that we see in that Birkin bag of content is that social media is really just like a label that we got imposed on. I think today we're starting to see more interest media, and you've probably seen this more than, and you too, building communities. It's the people who signal interest. For example, like for me, I love saunas, dude. That's an interest of mine, right? So now I'm gonna go and check it out and feel it, and if you're delivering it at a high quality on a consistent basis, then I'm like, oh, I can trust you. And if I trust you, then I'm going to spend with you. And if I'm going to spend with you, I'm going to engage with you, right? So like, and spending doesn't mean just dollars. I think spending is spending time and attention, right? Then once you spend time with you, they can engage and transact. Once you're able to get to the transaction, that's really where the relationship really fosters and blossoms. But when we thought about Now Media, I think about things hyper scalable. Like even with Fitz, I'm like when we chat and have dinner together, I'm always like, all right, bro, this is how you're gonna take it to the next level. Here's how you do it, da da da. But there's something really special and unique about making sure that whatever you're building is truly nurturing that community or that essence that cannot be replicated. I call this the do things that don't scale. The fastest way to scale, it's a paradox. The fastest way to scale is doing things that don't scale. What does that look like? If you're in tech or in anything, you should be writing handwritten notes to every single one of your investors or your first users. You should be sending thank you gifts to your first clients who helped you get to your first 6-figure deal, your 7-figure deal, your 8-figure deal, or your 9-figure deal, right? For me, it's like, I know this is going to sound a little bit ridiculous, but I love showing up, right? For birthdays, memories, things of that nature. A client just had something really important, or a potential friend or loose contact that opened the door. Show up for them, because you can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to show up. So I think like what we did to scale for our media company, for Now Media, going back to it, it was like we were consistently showing up for artists. We were consistently putting art first. And then my co-founder, we just nailed it, right? Like it was really solid. And we were surrounded by some really great advisors from from the get-go. And we were very clear around who we were going to serve, having that clarity. So we ended up figuring out through the creator Off-White, LVMH director, I forget his name. He, God rest his soul, he was a great advisor to us at the beginning. And he told us there's the purist and the tourist of your craft. So you have to learn the language. There's somebody who's going to come to your website or to your Instagram page who has just said sauna, Charlotte. And that was the first and only interaction maybe. And they're like, hey, I'm going to come check it out. But then there's the guy or the girl or the cat or the couple that are like living in it. They're doing ice cold plunges, coffees, biohacking, and they're like, oh, I just moved to Charlotte. I need to find that community of purists. That's how you kind of engage it. So learn the language of each. And then the other thing is like making sure that you're providing value before you're asking for value. So if you're going to brands, if you want to do sponsorship deals, or if you're looking to get, if you're an influencer or a content creator, before you ask for a transaction, create value for that company, right? Whether it's showcasing them, making a reel for them, making something, highlighting them, because then they're going to be like, they're going to see how you're presenting their brand within your ecosystem. And then it just clicks. I call that selling, having the ability to show them their version of your dream, which is so important. A lot of people just want to hone in on my version of my dream, my this, my that, and they pigeonhole themselves. Where if you just kind of pitch your dream 60% and you let the 40% be kind of co-created with your client or with your community or with your audience, then you have a resonation. And that's where we ended up closing Christie's, Coinbase, Meta, Porsche. We did a multi-year partnership with LG. We did a few things with Adobe. We did a few things with members of Congress, that we never even met, right? It's just about showcasing people the value proposition of how it benefits them before it benefits you.
Man, a lot of nuggets of wisdom right there.
That was a lot, but thank you for listening. Yeah,
that was great. And I think it's kind of a natural segue into Justin and what you're creating. And I'm curious for your take on, what signal you're putting out, Justin, but also kind of the take of do things that don't scale to help you scale, because you just came from a sponsor meeting where you're trying to close an annual deal for Chili Coffee Club instead of the like event by event sponsorships. But obviously you didn't get there, you didn't start there, so you had to do certain things that didn't scale to then be able to start to grow and scale. So curious for your take on the signal and doing things that don't scale, and anything else you want to touch on.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think on my end, I see, I've come from the tech world. I've come from working very high tech clientele when I was in consulting. I've ran a tech company. I've raised venture money. I've been on that side of the equation. AI has totally changed the game, and we all know this. It's nothing new. I think, again, there's ways you can use AI to shine and to stand apart from it, but I am so invested now in the analog side of things, and just we as humans are craving connection and craving in-person experiences and analog more than ever. It's the reason our events have taken off and things like this are starting to come back, and we're getting back to the pre-COVID times of, let's just go hang out and keep our phones away and chat. So my like big theme in the sky, my North Star, if you want to put it that way, is just getting back to being humans, regardless of tech, regardless of AI. And so how do we build tech to support that? How do we build tech around that? How can we leverage tech to share the word about that? But really the business or the model that I'm going after at the end of the day is like, let's just be analog humans. And so thinking of things that like don't scale, it's really hard to scale human connection. It's really hard to scale in-person experiences. It's not like we can sell 5,000, SaaS memberships and make a ton of money and sell that business for $50 million. Every single person who comes to our event is a warm body with needs and somebody who has to be taken care of, and they have to feel like it's a great experience for them to come back. For me, I kind of taking it back to your question, like I've always found things in the beginning that don't scale in hopes that it does scale eventually. So even running back to my media company, I know a lot of you guys here have media companies, videography companies, photography, whatever. I did, dozens of free projects in the early days of that business to get the book of business built to then go, sell a $100,000 deal to a multi-million-dollar e-commerce brand. And that happened because we did these free deals. Lamborghini let me do a free shoot for a Lamborghini that they were announcing, and it looked badass, and like we made this awesome hype edit from it, and then I used that to go get an actual client contract from Porsche. So like you just have to kind of find those initial things that don't scale and kind of bring it up to Chili Coffee Club. When we first launched, we launched it here in the backyard of this studio, our first Chili Coffee Club. I don't know if anyone was here for it. I know you were, but I invited 20 people, 20 friends, and kind of the thesis of Chili Coffee Club was not to make it a business. It was just to bring friends together, to listen to music, to be productive on a Saturday morning, to, drink some coffee, hop in a cold plunge. So I invited, I think, 20 friends to it. There was no like ticket. You didn't have to register. It was just like, hey, show up. Here's the RSVP. We're going to do it in this little backyard of my old studio. And so we invited 20 people. I think 80 people showed up, and I had no clue what I was doing still. Like it was very unscalable. I think I invited a chiropractor and a DJ to be here. And then the next event, again, I was like, okay, this is cool. We should do this again. So the next event, we invited those same 80 people, and then 150 people showed up, and then 250 people showed up. And before we know it, this unscalable kind of thing we were doing for fun was now becoming a business. And by putting it like intentionally not as a business first and just making it around the community and just focusing on not the money aspect, but how do we just bring people together to feel good on a Saturday and be energized and be charged up, that turned into a business kind of unintentionally. And so now 13, 14 events later, we just had our biggest event, 700 people paid tickets at Whitewater Center. We net a good bit of money from that event, high profit margin. But again, it was for the community. We're not a business. Like as much as we can, we invest that money back into new equipment and new venues. And we had to pay Whitewater Center a lot of money to be there, but it was worth it because it was just such a cool event for the community. And so like all that being said, like just finding the things early on that maybe don't scale to figure out what your audience wants, to build credibility, whatever that looks like. And then in my case, that's being like analog experiences, analog connections. Doing events is not scalable. Like what I'm doing now is not going to last forever. It is, people do not realize how much goes into like throwing a 600-700 person event as a single solo founder. Like it's like planning a wedding every month, essentially, with 15 to 20 vendors and ticket sales and all of that. So it's not scalable, but it's really fun, and it opens the door for other things I can do with this audience and this community that we've now built. So it's like, do we open a physical location at some point? Do we open a coffee shop? Do we host retreats? Do we start to travel as a community? Those are questions that I'm still trying to figure out and answer, but it's just been an amazing journey. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to building people together and creating community.
And Justin, if I can ask you a follow-up question before we bring it to Fitz, just because I want to like understand and get in your head around how, because like, man, you did that first event like you talked about here, and then like it just took off and blew up, and you had people posting content to the point where I think you had like over 100 stories that you like reposted from like the second event and on. And like, how did you think about like the sharing what you were doing and you know, because I think what you did in an amazing way, basically as you described, was like, this is what we do and this is why we do it, and people resonate with people, and then people started to come, they joined your community, even if it's analog and harder to scale. But like, how were you thinking about content, or did it just like naturally fall into place? Or you obviously were running a media company before, so I think you probably had some thoughts around how you were going to market and create content or UGC around it. So if you could just speak to your content strategy that obviously has gotten you to this level of success with Chili Coffee Club.
Yeah, we never really had one, which is the crazy thing. Like I probably should, having come from an agency, but initially my goal was like, again, let's just bring people together and the content is naturally going to happen. Like if we can create a dope experience that everybody has a blast at, I shouldn't need to be there filming everything myself, because I now have hundreds of people filming for me because they're having a blast there. And so that kind of became our strategy. Was I knew people were going to post stories of our event that we could reshare. And to this day, probably the most stressful part of an event is the like 24 hours after the fact, where I have to comb through 300 stories and try to figure out what I want to repost onto our account. And it is ranked by what I think is the best of the worst stories. So if your stories are at the end, I promise it's not personal, but it just is, it's been part of our strategy to just rely on others to grow it, and our killer like creative partners. So Fitz has been there, Kareem's been there. Like we've had some amazing videographers, photographers in the Charlotte community through Content Sunday, through my previous connections, that love coming to our events, that love shooting our events, not only because it helps them build their portfolio. We get, you know, a lot of exposure every month. We're getting 500,000 to 1 million impressions on our Instagram locally. So just people having their own content and their brand out there helps them. So intentionally have gone after local content creators that I think you can help me by capturing this experience, and hopefully I can help you by getting some new clients who are going to see you through our page. And so these collaborative barter-esque relationships have been really important for us. And I know that's not going to scale forever. You know, eventually I'd love to be making such a profit at these events that we can be reinvesting and buying, you know, sponsor packages from these creators, et cetera. But, you know, we've just kind of relied on our partners, our creators, our sponsors to do content, and it's worked out really well.
The power of collaboration, which, you know, brings us to Fitz, who is an ultimate collaborator and finding ways to cross-pollinate. And Fitz, I'm curious to get your take now on like how you think about collaborating around content and how it's helped you within your production business, but also Content Sunday as well, and just the power of collaboration and how that might help you stand out from the noise that's happening on social media.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think what we learned through year 2 was that collaborating is probably the most important thing, and it's one of the most evergreen things you can do. Whereas year 1, we were kind of learning who we were through people showing us what they needed. Because like I said, you know, it wasn't something that we created on purpose, which was great because we didn't have the pressure of, hey, we're just good videographers, photographers. We want to build something that will scale one day, will make money one day. We were looking for something ourselves selfishly, and then people showed us what they wanted. Of course, we kind of steered the ship after that, but in us having that like grassroots community and mentality, which is, you know, whether you start it for money or not, finding that and being able to curate and hone in on that is one of the most important things you can do. So in making those connections in collaboration, like Leo's asking, you know, with someone like Justin, who I met actually because we did a collaborative event at one of our buddies. You know, if it weren't for that day, and if we weren't open to doing a collab like this, would have never met Justin. Probably would have never shot a Chili Coffee Club or enjoyed that event. Or meeting Alejandro, we agreed to do something at a coffee shop, and there was dancing and a lot of fun, something we had never really done before. But one of our mutual friends posted said, hey, like this guy's great. What Content Sunday is doing is incredible. And then I met Alejandro because of that. You know, he DM'd me because he knew that person. And I was coming out of like leaving my job 2 months ago and trying to find my way. And that was one of the best things that could happen to me and really like catapult me and make me feel like this is something that we could do for real, myself and, you know, my co-founders here. So when I'm talking to them, because, you know, they have 9 to 5s, I'm the person doing it full time, but like we've all learned together as they are growing their own freelance and everything of that nature. The lessons that we've gotten from collaborating and meeting these people and building this production studio has been incredible. So if you can do one thing with your business as you're trying to grow it, collaborating and I think I learned this word from Leo, cross-pollinating. It's one of his faves, and it's not one of my faves too. But it's real, you know, bringing people together that you as your own business and your own founder in it would never think to bring on, or maybe you just wouldn't have the exposure otherwise. Being able to collab with somebody who has a studio or a different company or, you know, a different venture of their own, a different community of their own, then you learn that really no matter what faction of it people are in, community is kind of the same across the board. Everyone is just looking for someone to connect with, and then you're surprised by how much people resonate with one another, no matter how different their experiences were. So collaborating and community, I always put those two together, and networking for sure, but without those two, nothing else within your business of this sort really can grow or exist.
I want to add something to what I think it's important to note that when I reached out to Fitz, there was a level of credibility already established through Content Sunday, and I don't even think we wrote a contract. I wired you. I wired you I wired you like that same day. I was like, "Yo, here," and you. He even was like, "Do you want a contract?" And I was like, "Bro, like, let's just rock this." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
We had
we're
not
like,
even,
like,
I don't think we even spoken the phone yet,
yeah,
which
we
is
hadn't even
crazy.
spoken to the phone. He's like, "Dude, he sent me a deck with like a treatment for the project." And I had already seen it. And the fact that he was at that event with one person who I trusted already was like, cool, sure, let's go, rock it. So I think that that's also the credibility that you kind of bring. And I always say credibility before vulnerability in the business world. And so that allowed me to be vulnerable with him and just get the ball rolling on that front.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I think that goes to like the signal that you were creating on social media, but also authentically in real life, and that aligned, right? And what I heard each one of you say was value first, ask second, and that is what makes an ultimate great collaborator is that they're looking to add value to you before you then take from that collaboration and having that value first mindset, that reciprocity, understanding that that reciprocity will come back to you is like really powerful within the collaboration. And I think like you know, one of the other parts of this too is how do you, you know, create content and how do you to put yourself out there in a way that isn't all about like asking, right? Because you still, if you think about like the overall content funnel, you have the top of the funnel, which is like awareness. You're creating, you know, content that hopefully has awareness and helps you like establish what your signal is and what your content pillars are. And from there, it will flow down into hopefully value forward content, and you're, you know, providing that value with the content you're putting out, and it aligns with your signal as well as like your main content pillars. And then from there, once you have like created content that is in alignment with your signal and with your content pillars, you can then make the ask at the bottom of the funnel, right? And so, but everything has to be aligned. And so, like, just to use an example of what I'm saying with the content pillars, you know, like Chase Price, if you're familiar with him, he's a good buddy of mine, and he's grown his following organically to over, I think he just hit 50,000 followers. And his 3 pillars are family, faith, and fitness. And all of his content is related to one of those 3 pillars. And he is putting out content that is directly related to that, as well as people know when they visit his page based off his bio, who he is, what he does, and why he does it. And all of his content's related to those 3 pillars. So as soon as you land on his page, you know exactly what value he's putting out there, and it makes him credible to then make you like say, hey, I want to be coached by him if I'm a high performance athlete in his case. And so, then all content flows and is in full alignment. So it's super clear like what the signal is when you land on somebody's page. And that's how you stick out from AI. So I guess maybe Justin, if you want to talk about kind of your thoughts, if you have any starting thoughts on how you think about like top of funnel, middle of funnel, and then bottom of funnel content as it relates to like what that signal you're trying to put out into the world is.
Yeah, I mean, for us, like at Chili Coffee Club now, our content strategy is so different than it would have been when we were running a client engagement back in the day when I had the agency in here. But the fundamentals don't really change. It kind of, to your point, there's top of funnel, like awareness style content, there's conversion content, there's consideration content. Basically, the 3 stages of content is what I like to think of. So, for example, if we don't do paid ads with Chili Coffee Club at all, it's all organic, very intentionally. We want you to feel like you found the community in an organic way or you knew somebody there. We don't want you to hit a Facebook ad and just show up there without knowing a single person. So when we put out content, it's majority awareness stage content, which is just look at this cool community we're bringing together. You're going to see it organically in the algorithm on Instagram or Facebook or wherever the content is. And you're going to say, okay, this is cool. I might not buy a ticket yet, but I'm going to go follow this page and just kind of see more of that. So we just put out basically all of these crazy recaps of our morning parties. So people that are like, have never seen it before immediately know, okay, Chili Coffee Club brings out DJs and they throw morning ragers with cold plunges and saunas. It's like very easy to gather that just by looking at any piece of content on our page. From there, if we like, and this is something we are considering now, is how do we start engaging with the people who have seen our content and how do we actually start running some ads? We want to test it. So like back when I was running my agency, after we knocked out the awareness stage content, we'd go into consideration stage, which is basically anyone who's seen your content, now we want them to go sign up for an email list or sign up for SMS list or whatever that might be. So now we're putting out content we assume you already know everything about Chili Coffee Club. Now we want you to join our email list. So the call to action on it might be like, find out when tickets drop so you don't mix the next one. And a lot of this happens now through email for us. So after you've joined our email list, we want to make sure you're signing up for the next event drop, whatever that is. The third stage of content then is like, okay, we know these people are interested in it. We know they've considered coming. Now we want to really retarget you. So again, if we were to think of retargeting content as kind of that third bucket, this is really high conversion, high call to action. Like, hey, we know you've been to an event. Tickets just dropped. We have early bird out there right now. We need you to come buy a ticket. So I don't know if that makes sense. Like I always think of content in those 3 buckets of like, what is awareness stage? What is consideration stage? What is conversion stage? And if we were going to be doing it for a brand, whether that's ourselves or when I had the agency for any of our clients, we want to make sure every piece of content fits into one of those 3 buckets. Generally speaking, also maybe within like your content categories, kind of to your point, like faith, fitness, family, etc. But from a company standpoint, it's more important to think through like, okay, what am I getting this person to buy and how do we get them down that journey and what content can bring them through that journey and kind of pull them through.
Yeah. No, I think that's super helpful because so many people are putting out content that might just be like, cool, unique content and it's at the top of the funnel, but they're not like they're not actually like monetizing and then making the ask, which is important. But then there's a lot of people that every piece of content they put out is an ad or is asking for something, and that's not giving value before you're asking for value. So I think that was a great breakdown. Thanks for that, Justin. And I'm curious, Alejandro, to ask you, because obviously now media started with just an Instagram page, and then you grew it to millions of followers. You also then was creating millions of dollars of annual revenue too. And how do you think about like this top of funnel all the way through the bottom of the funnel to provide value and then make your strategic ask?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And man, it all depends on what type of formula, what type of business you want to run. Um, when you're thinking about content creation, I like to akin it to the personal monopoly, right? And a personal monopoly is something that only you can monopolize, right? That's the whole word of it. And it usually looks like a 3-ring Venn diagram where it has the 3 pillars, and you're at the center, at the core of it. I always say that you should be giving away 90% of your content, and then 10% of your content should be responsible for 100% of your revenue, right? Because like when you get somebody that it's really, really intrigued into you, and they're like, you're giving away your value, they're like, oh my God, they're giving away this for free. I can only imagine how valuable that extra 10% is, and that just usually they sell themselves. right? How many times have you had a sponsor or a client that's already coming to you like, all right, where do I sign? Like, I know you, I've lived you, I've breathed you, I've seen you, we've engaged, and then they write a check, right? So that 10% is really foundational to make sure that your 90% is consistently adding value. Um, there's got to be a standard of excellence that you commit to, that you emit from a perspective of a media company, right? And scaling from an Instagram account to a media company that has raised venture, like I have Gary V, Kygo, Blondish, Guy Gerber as my investors, CAA, I had WME, like we had like legit investors that we have to answer to, right? Like, and so from that perspective, what we did is we also made our customer base, our investor base. So they were engaged into uh the upside of it because they consumed our content, they engaged with our content. Now, how can they help me grow the content and then ultimately see an upside in that transaction? So that's really important. The other thing that we wanted to stand out is that the way you stand out is by what you don't do. Like saying no was is to this day really important. It's actually more important than what you say yes to. So over the course of 5 years before I stepped down, we probably said no to close to $10 million in revenue. Like it could have been life changing for the company, but at the end of the day, there were grifter, gimmicky, even downright fraudulent content around the NFTs times. Things were very frothy. So for us, it was very important to say no to certain things.
It wasn't in alignment with your signal and your pillars.
Right, and I think that reputation is always going to compound, right? Like the thing is, most people say life is very short. I like to say that life is very long. You're going to walk into rooms that people are going to remember you uh, in a particular essence of your time. I've had clients come to me where they were like, "Hey, man, I really saw you across the room at that one event 5 years ago, and I really appreciated that." It actually just happened. So I have I'm an executive coach on the side. I help coach. I help Series pre-seed all the way to Series A fundraise, right? So I've capital formation over $150 million. So money is very easy language, very simple language to accustom to, but a lot of people fail at it. And I was pitching in 2022 at Faina Now Media, and um, literally a month ago, a guy was like, "Hey man, you came across my network. I'm about to fundraise. I was asking this M&A banker if he knows anyone in the Charlotte area, and he named you." And I was like, "Wait, is this the same Alejandro that was at the Faina Club 4 or 5 years ago?" And he immediately said, "I remembered you immediately. I love the essence, the presence, and what you were saying no to was really important to me." And so you never know who a client may be or not right now today, but you're seeding based on that personal monopoly, right? One of the things you'll know is that my faith is really a cornerstone of my identity. Like, if my faith bothers you, if my faith in some way, shape, or form hinders our relationship, that's a filter for me, right? Like, I pray before every meeting. I pray before every deal. I pray before I sign a paperwork. I pray before I create a proposal. You need to go shishi? Okay, thank you. And on that point, I'll wrap that up. But I think your personal monopoly is incredibly important because it's a filter for what you can do, but it's also important for what you won't do. And what you say no to will have more impact on your growth than anything else. And that's what we helped us scale from, like, that Instagram account to over 3.5 million in audience with millions of dollars in blue chip brands.
That's really interesting, and something I take away there is like money is always looking for vision as long as vision is communicating what their signal is and what they're actually doing effectively. And that's the same thing that Alejandro described there of like, he was looking for somebody that could help them articulate and communicate and then actually produce his vision, which was you, Fitz. Like, and he felt that like credibility, and he saw what you were putting out where it was like, I need my money to go with Fitz because he can help me bring my vision to life. And another thing that he said is the standard of excellence. And I think that's something that, I think, pretty much everybody here has probably seen Fitz's content. It's like, top notch, just high quality. And so I think you're doing both of those things really well, Fitz. And so from your perspective, like running your media production company, how do you think about like your standard of excellence as well as like you know, I guess just the content that you put out. If you want to touch on the funnel
Yeah.
content as well.
Yeah, for sure. I like, as well as Content Sunday with these guys, I create my own content for myself, but also for businesses and, events, whatever. So there's two ways that I look at it, and my own personal business helps me a lot with Content Sunday. So I know one of the earlier questions to Justin was, how do you make sure that your content looks great from top of funnel to bottom? What does it look like, and how do you choose what goes out? So whether it be reposting a specific story and not so much another one, like it's a lot. It's a full-time job, honestly, in curating the experience that you are not only giving but sharing with your audience. So for Content Sunday, it's a lot of work for us to be like, let's put out this video now, let's put out this photo now, let's put out this carousel or these questions at this given point. But all of it is so important because it is the first thing that somebody sees when they click on your page. And that's what allows your client to choose to pay you, give you money, trusting you for their project before they even have a conversation with you. So for Content Sunday, we just dealt with somebody the other day. One of our community members like, hey, can you repost this? Like, do you mind collaborating on this? And unfortunately, I had to, just being straight, I had to tell him, I'm sorry, man. Like, we actually have a content layout. We have these ways that we go about what we put out because it's very, very important for what we want people to see. So choosing what and what not to share for your community, for whatever you're building, is so, so, so very important. And then on the personal side with my business, I have a personal Instagram for content and a business page for content. And I do a lot. Like, I do anything under the sun if it requires me holding a camera, especially within my first year as I am growing that part of my business. But I don't share every single thing that I do to that page, no matter if I spent, 3 weeks on it or one day. If I don't feel like it's in alignment with the content that I'd like to put out, the business that I'd like to be one day, whether it be just me or multi-person, then I don't post it. It's just for my client. It's just for whatever that job was, which is sometimes hard. Like I said, you put a lot of hours into it, your blood, sweat, and tears into this one thing. But if you can sit and really decide and be like, actually, this doesn't represent the work that I aspire to do, and whether it's great work or not, if the actual totality and completion of it is not the business that you'd like to attract, then maybe you don't post it. It may fluff and kind of make it muddy for the rest of the work that you're putting out. So I have this conversation with a lot of people as they're deciding how to curate their feed and what content to put out. If it's not who you're wanting to aspire to be and what's your business. If I want to shoot sports and I shoot one of those a month and I'm posting every other thing that I do, it's not really in alignment. And someone like Alejandro who's clicking on my page, if he has a sports business and he sees I do a little bit of everything, it may just not work. So you should use your content that you're putting out as just another part of your business, just as much as you going out and doing your breath work, doing your videography, whatever it is, as or who you are as a business owner. Controlling your content and making sure you can control what people see from it is also just as important.
And Fitz, I guess a follow-up question, how do you think, because clearly you're putting out, who you are, what you do, why you do it, and you're sticking to your niche, like you said, and kind of like recommended everybody really like get clarity on what that is so that everybody else, like, because if you don't have clarity on like who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what your like 3 to 5 main content pillars are, if you don't have clarity, the people that visit your page certainly won't either. And so you have that clarity, that's what you're putting out. Now, how do you think about like when you're trying to get somebody to buy, like and having an offer, like how are you thinking now from like content almost as like a sales engine for you so that you don't have to even necessarily sell? Because it sounds like even in many couple examples at least, you've had your signal and your content sell for you. like how do you think about like the offer and like actually monetizing your offer?
Yeah. I think for myself, and kind of, I guess, touching back on what I said, there's a goal in mind, like from day one, and that can grow. But that if you can keep that goal in mind, that North Star, that person in business that you're trying to become at the forefront of your mind, then that's what I always fall back on. So we shoot a lot of stuff. We put a lot of work into the events that we do, and I'm filling up an SSD every other month. Trying to make sure we're capturing all of it. But we post a fraction of it, whether it's in alignment with what we're wanting to put out now or a few months from now. That's that discernment that you have to have, and you have to just always fall back on who do I want people to see me as, and also who am I to my community, to my business, to my clients, and how do I continue to provide that? And it's like I said, it's a full-time job. Having that decision making and being able to tell so and do so it's difficult. There's no other way around it. Like, it is difficult. But if and I tell these guys all the time, like putting in information out about an event, right? The easy thing to do, and maybe this is the answer, the easy thing to do is put out a flyer. Go on Canva for 5 minutes, put out a flyer, whatever. But I hate a page that is filled up with flyers. It doesn't do a great job. I click on it and I know nothing about your business. I know nothing about your community. I just know, like Alejandro said, that you're trying to invite people to this thing every week, every other week, whatever. So if it's a ton of flyers and not as much video or photo or you discussing who you are as a business, I can't stand it. I'll actually just get off the page no matter what it is, So if you can always put out quality, no matter how much of it that you have, if you can always put out quality above anything else, that's my North Star. That's what I fall back on. And that's how I make sure anyone scrolling through, when they click it, they're kind of wowed or, seeing that it can fit with what they're trying to put out as well.
Thanks, Vince. That's great. That's most of what I have. I can kind of recap a little bit of like what I would suggest everybody, for yourself, whether it's your personal brand, your business brand. Again, like, you've heard me say, really, I think it's important to have a signal statement, like who you are, what you do, why you do it. Picking 3 to 5, I would say 3 content pillars, so you're not like too much noise even within your own channel of like what is it that are your values? Like, what are you trying to put out? What is like your goal? And like everything that we've talked about, 3 main content pillars. Like for myself, it's capability, creation, and community. And it doesn't have to be like FFF or CCC. It just happened to flow nicely because everything I am putting out there is related to those 3 things. So if you go to my page, you know what I'm trying to put out. So signal statement, 3 content pillars, and then what's an offer that like really is going to resonate with the people that come to your page, the people that see what you're doing and what your values are. What's something that's going to add value to them? And then if you have a irresistible offer, like Alex Hormozy's like irresistible offer, that's in alignment with that, then naturally you're going to be able to sell through your content, and you're not even going to have to be as deep of a salesperson because you'll be able to have people that come to you ready to wire you money before you even have a contract. So that would be like my recommendation, and we can always like do some breakouts here, but I guess I just want to open it up to the room and just see, does anybody have like any questions or curiosities that they want to like talk about as a group? Maggie?
So you were saying the discernment of, what you put out and how you want to be seen, image as the sensor. As a career, how do you do that but also still like stay with your authenticity intact?
So how do you keep your authenticity intact but be able to still put out content?
Well, I'm saying like, you're discerning whether or not what to put out. So I'm saying like, how do you, for me, I get stuck because I'm like, oh, I want to do it this way because I want to be seen this way. I feel like I lose my authenticity in that,
And I'm happy to if anybody else wants to comment here. To me, it seems like maybe it's like a lack of clarity of like, what is your authenticity? And like, who is Maggie and who is like, what is your authenticity? And if you have clarity there, then like you can put out content related to that. But I don't know. Does anybody have anything they want to?
Yeah, I would say it sounds like you're also maybe, and tell me if I'm incorrect, you're trying to put out what is authentic to you, but you're also trying to put out what will work well. And sometimes you feel like you're putting out what may work well and it's not in alignment with who you are. That's very difficult because obviously you're wanting to start a business, you're trying to, or a community or whatever it may be. Sometimes though, you're putting out that content continuously, whether it's 2 times a week or 7 times a week. The engagement that you're getting from it is not what you always want to lean on. There is a lesson in like success and results and engagement for sure. But it just means that the content that you really want to be putting out, your community or your audience has not seen it just yet. I've like quite a few artistic friends, that they're not really trying to start a huge business, but they do want their art to shine. And it's great because their art's very unique. Their art is themselves. It's not so much like what anyone else is putting out. But because of that, they haven't quite met their audience yet. And, their question is, what do I put out? How do I put it out? Like, why am I not getting these eyes? With social media, which is such a game in itself, it's another conversation. It really is just continuing to be who you are. And so that one person sees it. I actually, there's this woman in this cohort I was just in who is a great artist, fantastic artist. And she continued more than I am, like continued to be more consistent with her content. And she just finally had a video go viral the other day. I'm talking like she was getting like 15 likes a post, finally had a video go viral the other day, like 4 million views, I think at this point, 400, 500,000 likes. And she was like out on her job and like not paying, she couldn't pay her rent. That one post, because she was consistent and she wasn't, trying to be something she wasn't, she was just waiting for her audience to actually find her. That just paid her rent. It took care of every bill that she was worried about. Her page has now gained like 6,000 followers in a couple of weeks. Like the consistency of just continue to be who you are will make sure, like I said earlier, that the other stuff that you aren't, the stuff that makes it muddy, is not getting in the way of your clear goal. So I know it's hard to not be able to post and get likes and things like that. You post a thing, you wake up the next day, it doesn't do as well as you want. But as soon as that one person finds it, that's when you're who you truly want to be. That's when who you truly want to be will actually, take its course. So don't spend too much time trying to be anything else.
Yeah, I think I like what Fitz says really well, and I think one of the things that I felt my way through recently is, one, you have to go through cringe mountain, whether it's publicly or privately. You actually have to go through it, right? And that's a relationship that you have with yourself, right? And you just got to take the vanity off of it and just post. Number one. Number two is establish the roots before the branches. So figure out what's gonna stable you in terms of that content creation before you do experimentation, right? So topic versus it's more important to talk about the topic than it is like the theme or the style of video, right? Like some people do some highly polishable things, cinematic things of that nature, but then there's also some people that are just straight to camera with a wired microphone and they get like 10 million hits, right? So just I think it's theme over like cinematic first and foremost, so you can set that route. And then one of the things that we've seen recently in media, and this is what I advise all my clients, is optimize to go into the DMs and group chats, right? Like, I'd rather have a video or a piece of content that hits the 1 to 5 people that have authority to spend than 100,000 people who are just gonna like it, right? Like, likes ain't cash, as they say, right? Like, likes aren't gonna pay your rent, but getting to the right DM, getting something forwarded to the right person, right? That's really what you want to optimize in. And another way that I would say this is that people buy from people, right? So this is why the pages who have authentic personalities or in camera, in front of the camera, the narrative of human story is really, really critical to this because people will like to either aspire to be you or can see themselves in you and they want to help you. Right? So those are the two things you want to kind of craft into. But just to kind of to summarize it, be prepared to climb cringe mountain, whether privately or publicly, and that's okay. Roots before branches, and optimize for DMs and group messages in today's age. Like, I would not optimize for 100,000 views or the million like, the viral content is awesome, great, but I would actually optimize for group chats and DMs.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That was a great question and great discussion there. And what you kind of mentioned there at the end, Alejandro, was, the power of storytelling is actually increasing, I believe, in its importance now in this AI era, because that's very much so human intelligence, and like real human stories are going to have value, and very much so with what you're doing, Justin, with in-person experiences and bring people together to find connections and be able to feel like that's all human intelligence that people are like really craving in this like age of AI. And when you're like authentically presenting your human intelligence and connecting with others on what resonates with them as humans, that is like what's really going to draw people in. And then it's not about followers and likes, and you can still have posts go viral, but even if you have 200 followers, you could be getting more people to buy and actually excelling in business more than somebody who has 200,000 followers. So it's all about putting out your authentic story and authentic signal. So Justin, did you have anything you wanted to comment on that?
I mean, I can't really top those two guys. My personal brand has been on pause for the last like year. If any of you follow me on Instagram, it's taken a hiatus while Chili Coffee Club has been my focus. But the one thing that I will add to Alejandro's point around like the likes not mattering, the following not mattering, like that's definitely something we've seen with Chili Coffee Club. Like we went from, in this last year, 0 followers to 9,000 now, just over the course of a year, solely again through organic content and shares and the viral aspect of kind of what we're doing. But that doesn't convert to ticket sales at the end of the day. What converts is, can we get people to buy the tickets at the events? And so kind of to my earlier point on leveraging tech to enhance the human experience, we have found that using like mini chat automations to get people after they follow our Chili Coffee Club page to automatically follow up with them with just like a thanks for joining our community. So as soon as somebody follows Chili Coffee Club, they automatically get a DM saying like, hey, we're so glad you've joined our community. Let us know, that we'd love to have you at the next event. Here's a discount if you want to come through. It sends them to our ConvertKit page. They join the ConvertKit, they double opt in from ConvertKit. They're now on our email list, and now we can retarget them. And that one single follow just saved us, anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 bucks in a Facebook ad if we were to try to buy that contact elsewhere. But it's all just free essentially through MiniChat. You pay the fee for MiniChat, but we're optimizing for that rather than we're optimizing for just like likes on our content or follows. Like the follow converts to that, but really we just want to show cool experiences that get people to follow us to then get them on our email list essentially at the end of the day.
I think when I want to geek out on this, is it cool if I geek out on
Yeah,
this?
yeah, we're getting into advanced
Okay.
marketing strategies.
Yeah. So like one of the things that you want to optimize on is called owned and operated. Like, what he's doing is really great, getting that funnel so he owns the client. Because tomorrow, God forbid, Instagram could be like, hey, we don't like chill and coffee, actually. We're going to ban you. Bye. And he has like 100,000 people page, then it's gone, right? Versus if he has 100,000 email lists, no matter what happens, it's intimacy, right? Like you want to optimize for intimacy. That's what people want to do. Like, have you ever received an email from a brand or a person that you didn't like? How many of you have like literally a visceral response to that? You're like, it almost feels violated, right? Because the inbox is the last intimate space in digital, right? Everything else is public. Everything else is from that perspective. So you want to optimize from that. Now, if you want to get into the geek world of this, an email on average, people will pay $12 to $15 on the customer acquisition cost for an email. An Instagram users probably at a high rate 25 cents, right? At a high rate. But if you go and sell your email list, someone will pay you $12 to $15 for those verified double opt-in elements. So now you have an owned and operated element. You can create an intimacy relationship with them, and essentially you become an incredibly valuable person for them. And then there's people who look forward to you, look to that capacity. Like if you're consistent on it, then every brand has that owned and operated element that you can do whatever you want. You can pivot. The algorithm may change on Instagram one day, and you can go from 100,000 hits per thing to like 1,000. Or if you're on X, they're literally, the algorithm changes on a daily basis with Nikita, like moving it around, just like doing A/B testing. So email is still king. Highly recommend to focus on that more than anything else. Um, and use brands like like simple Substacks to start off. ConvertKit's really great. Beehive is really awesome. Uh, Mailchimp, once you get to a specific dollar amount, that could be make a lot more sense. But ConvertKit's been like the top brand right now in terms of platform that allows you to actually monetize your users from that perspective. So on a geeking out world, don't ever forget the following words: owned and operated, right? That's yours. No matter where you do, you can take it anywhere. And that's why you see every person or every brand that you ever hit off, it's like email, 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 send us your email, sign up for your email, sign up for your email, is because your email is so incredibly valuable.
And just to kind of add to that too, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to community owners or influencers that are relying 100% on a story post or a feed post to get their sales of their product. And it's just kind of mind blowing to me, like, that they're not trying to get them off of that platform. Because again, we all probably know someone who's had their Instagram account banned or hacked then banned because of something it posted. Like, you do not own that audience legally. You do not own that audience. Like, Instagram has the right to your content as well as your following. Like, that is not yours in any capacity. You're not even legally allowed to sell your Instagram account. So again, like, there's no value in building a big following or big numbers on Instagram if you're not also taking that off the platform. And there are more tools than ever. Again, ManyChat, ConvertKit, you name it. Doesn't really matter what you're using. Your number one priority for social media should be getting an email address and a phone number from your people and communicating everything you want to sell them, get them to sign up for, et cetera, through that and not through the algorithm, because it's essentially unpredictable. You never know, to Fitz's point, when something's going to pop. And so you can't rely on the algorithm to get out content. I think, like in our case, that is 100% what we're using social media for, is to optimize our email list and our SMS list. And if, emails are worth $10 to $12, phone numbers are worth probably $50. You might know the metric more, but we make sure we collect a phone number and email from every single person who's been to one of our events. I think now almost 9,000 emails and phone numbers over the course of the last year. And that is like one of the most valuable assets in our business, because if we get banned on TikTok or Instagram or anywhere else, we still can throw events through that list.
Literally 40 times more valuable than an Instagram follower, according to those metrics. So yeah, omni-channel content, put it out in multiple areas, and then have a strategy as part of like your monetization strategy to get and acquire an owned audience, is what I'm hearing you guys say.
Yeah, and a hack that I'm seeing today, especially for events and IRL, like if that's something that you guys want to, like Facebook. I know it's been incredibly dormant, but there is something called network effects, right? And over the years, you have actually, I've had a Facebook account since 2008, right? So one of the first waves. And there's this element called network effects where you can actually start pinging nodes of people for different concepts. And I'm starting to see brands, media companies start publishing or pushing through content on Facebook, because people are zombie or doom scrolling through Facebook, just kind of like seeing it from a nostalgic perspective. Do not ever bet against nostalgia. Okay, I'll be right with you. So nostalgia is very important. Facebook is also awesome because Facebook, you have to remember, a whole generation grew up on Facebook events, and so there's trust already embedded in that capacity.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I actually am curious, and this is from a curiosity standpoint of like with Linxy, like we have another channel for in-person events and marketing, Facebook being one, Luma being another. How do you think about, like, somebody who's creating in real life experiences and events, like how do you think about like omni-channel marketing for events?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and there's no right answer to it. There's so many platforms, there's so many ways you can get in front of people. We kind of just really have a two-step approach for every event. Like, actually this morning, we just went live with our next event for April 11th. So our typical flow for a Chili Coffee Club event is we're not going to announce it anywhere the day it drops. We actually kind of like a soft launch, so that we can send an email and a text out to like people who've been to a previous event. They kind of get the word, the first dibs to buy a ticket before anybody else does. So the first thing that went out this morning was an email and a text to anyone who's been to one of our events. that kind of makes them feel like they're part of the club, they're part of the community. They get access to it before anybody else does, before we post a story, before we post a Instagram post. So we sold out 25% of our event this morning before the rest of the world even knew that tickets went live. We still haven't posted anything about the event today, and it'll probably hit almost 50% sold out before it even goes to Instagram. For us, then we follow it up with just like a flyer post, which I know Fitz is a big fan of, but we mix it in with like 10% flyer posts, 90% people smiling in videos. But our flyer post is what gets us the biggest amount of sales than anything else. Like we put the flyer post out, we know for a fact it's gonna get 500 to 700 shares, and those shares convert to people buying tickets as soon as it goes live. And so after that, we might follow it up with a couple more Instagram posts, just recapping previous events, fun stuff, carousels mixed with reels, mixed with just showing people smiling. At the end of the day, people come to our events because they're smiling, fun people there. And that is what we're selling, is the experience, the community, et cetera. So our strategy is really simple. We could be mixing in other channels like paid ads. Again, we haven't done it in the past. Story posts we'll kind of put in here and there. I am the social media manager for Chili Coffee Club, and I do a horrible job at it. So I don't have a chance to like run it every day, putting out content as much as I wish I could. We're potentially looking to hire somebody. So for anyone out there who has a great social media manager locally that I'd recommend, definitely connect me. But ours is really simple: 2-channel, hit an SMS and text list, email list, and then follow it up with a couple Instagram posts. And that's really the extent of what we do for our events. And we just kind of let the organic, shareable, peer-to-peer network take care of the rest of the sales.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Justin. Yeah, I want to open it back up. Does anybody else have any questions or perspectives to share? Yeah.
I have a question. So I'm Megan. I'm the director of marketing for the Climbing Collective, which has 3 climbing gyms here in Charlotte, 5 in Philly, and 1 in Albany, New York. And then I also work part-time as the marketing manager for the Climbing Business Journal, which is like our climbing industry's journal. So I'm not an owner or founder. I like to say I have an owner mindset, because I genuinely believe that indoor climbing makes people live better. Whatever your chosen hobby or community is, like likewise for those as well. And I have 1 full-time staff for my marketing team, and then 3 very part-time contractors who are all amazing. But we are a lean team for 9 locations, soon to be 10, and then on Hortan with CVJ. Anyway, all this to say, giving the context, because I followed some of you guys in the room. Justin, I know I've reached out to you. I'm sucking like weekend interviews up at action. And I believe that content is, leading the charge in how people are receiving information and feeling included, and then buying into that like identity and sense of belonging. But I answer to a board at the end of the day. And so I am learning I'm a self-taught marketer, was in secondary education before this. So the last 4 years have just been a grind of like trial and error and climbing the cringe mountain list. I love that. So one of the pieces that I'm learning on the business side is how to be board literate, and how to set myself up for choosing KPIs and metrics and opportunities to show ROI that are not as ethereal feeling to, just to be frank, like climbing started as super dirt bad, where like word of mouth and referral, which is still the best and low, customer acquisition cost tool that you have. But when we're asked to invest in a content strategy, and some gave the keynote, he's amazing. We're working with him very part-time right now, pretty short version. But to summarize all that, trying to get context so that there's that story.
Yeah. It's helpful. Thank you.
How do you ask your board for X amount of dollars for a content strategy? What does the timeline realistically look like for that budget to play out, and for you to have a measurable outcome? Would just love your insight on.
Sounds like an Alejandro kind of answer.
I
Came in
think
at the perfect time.
Of course, he's gone through.
No. I think it's helpful, and just to like re-summarize, basically, like when you have a board, or you have, even if it's bosses that are looking at your metrics of content, and you want to get an investment into your content because you see the value that content has for a venue, multiple venue business in the climbing space specifically here. How do you request investment from your boss or your board And how do you look to actually like have real tangible metrics that can show ROI?
more or less. Yeah. That's a great question. One is I have a couple clarifying questions before I go into it. What's your role on the board? Are you a board member or you're just pitching the board? Okay, so you're pitching the board. Okay, so very little leverage in that from that perspective. Number two is how much authority do you have right now in terms of like capital distribution?
Pretty much all of it.
Great, awesome. So you have trust.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, how adversarial is the board?
Well, you made this as part, but climbing originally was very like dirtbag, grassroots marketing, very lean. We have a really lean team. So, yeah, like pretty adversarial, I would say.
Okay, awesome. And I'm guessing that the board wants to make money.
Absolutely.
Okay, no, there's a lot of people that like spending money. There's very few people that like making money. This is why success in business is so easy, um, or very simple actually. So the way I would structure this is I would come to the table and I would create the environment where this is you and the board looking at a problem, or you and the board looking at an opportunity. And I would versus putting together initiatives, I would guide the conversation via questions. Right? Hey team, what are some of the KPIs that we have for the next 30, 60, 90 days as a board? Hey team, what's the dollar value that we need to actually reach in this next quarter? What does success look like for us from a marketing standpoint? Is it LTV? Is it CAC? Is it ROAS? Like where do we want to fine tune the metric, and what is the number one priority that we're optimizing for? So when you start understanding their perspective, negotiations is not about getting your way. It's about information extraction. The more information you extract, the more clear the landscape becomes for you, and then you can navigate it. And so what I'm just going to hallucinate here, and I would say, hey board, now that our LTV, we want it to be at like $4, and our customer acquisition cost, we want to bring it down to like between 3 to 5 cents. And each email is worth to us $10 to $12, and we know that we can upsell them the moment they're here. We can go, okay, the free ticket. So there's a something called the loss leader. I don't know if you're familiar with the loss leader, right? So like the loss leader is going to be what we're promoting, but once they get here, we'll upsell them on the rentals, on the extra training, the coffee that costs us 20 cents, we can charge $8, right? So there starts, what I would then say, it's like, would it be a crazy idea to run an experiment, right? People love experiments. The board sees an experiment as something that is finite. It could end. If it doesn't work out, great. So what would a good experiment look like for us to be able to get to the goals that we can negotiate together? Okay, let's create a sandbox. Okay, great. So in this sandbox, we're going to test a $5,000 budget in the next 14 to 15 days. Our spend on this per advertisement or per whatever it is on Instagram, Facebook, whatever you want to do it. Let's spend $1 on it per ad. Let's go ahead. Let's see what that budget looks like. Let's go see it out. And then you can start tracking things from an experimentation perspective versus an initiative or a trajectory or a standpoint. So you look at this from a learning experience and you involve the board through the clarifying questions, right? Because then the moment that you're asking questions and they're answering, you can hold them accountable towards their answers, right? Because at the moment that somebody says, we gave you a $5,000 budget, but the results aren't there, you can actually say, hey guys, I was limited by the budget that you guys gave me. Not, hey, I proposed 5,000 and I'm wrong, right? So it becomes more of a holding each other accountable perspective. And again, I'm only giving you the perspective of you towards the board, because if I was on the board, if you were on the board, I'd give you another perspective. But what I want to say here is lead with curiosity, lead with collaboration, and lead with what are the expected results that you want anchored, but the key word here is experimentation. I like to run an experiment, and that immediately brings down the threats, that immediately brings down the adversarial and the defensiveness, because an experiment can fail, and people know that word that immediately brings collaboration as well. I hope that helps.
Absolutely. I've never really considered to frame it as an experiment. So that just like unlocks something. So thank you very much.
Alejandro's got great advice always. And I really love the question based, because you're not selling, it's a team collaborative,
Right.
conversation, but in a way, almost everything is a little bit of influencing and selling. And so when you're asking questions, you're guiding them to give you the answers ultimately that you're seeking. So it's really a great perspective. Thanks, Alejandro. Couple questions, probably time left. David?
Yeah, so I'm David Grasco, one of the founders for Ultra Beverage Company. We're a local brand here, focused on adaptogens and hemp-infused products. And I do have a couple of questions just because I want to understand, like, we're still growing, we're still hyper-focused in Charlotte, and what's really helped us a lot is building a relationship with retail location. So a lot of the relationships and, events that we've also collaborated with Justin, with View for other local businesses that are really more in line with the wellness aspects of things. My thing is wanting to ensure as I take the next step in my business, understand how we can work or what you've seen with brands that like successful brands that do differently with creators, how they're building, relationships with them, what are some things that maybe they misunderstand, and then what are brands doing to get real staying power in certain markets? Let's expand other things.
No, that's a good question. Justin, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, the landscape has changed so much. I mean, when I had my agency, we worked with 95 e-commerce brands over the course of 3 years, and mostly with a meta focus. We were creating content for them to run on meta ads, et cetera. So the landscape of working with a local creator is a little bit different, and this is probably something Fitz could maybe add some clarity on, definitely Alejandro, as well as you've worked with bigger brands. But, from my eyes, the nature of content has changed, and the nature of getting your brand in front of the community has changed. And I know we've worked together. We've brought Altura out to our events, and I think continuing to find other communities like Chili Coffee Club, both locally but also just nationally. It doesn't have to be health and wellness focused. It could be down in Atlanta or Tampa. Like, I think there's just so much value in the boots on the ground, guerrilla style, analog marketing now that just you can't get that immediate respect and authority like you do on Instagram, where people just see an ad, or if it's a UGC video. Like, UGC was the future for a while. Every brand was doing UGC content. My tech company was built to create UGC content faster with AI, and we witnessed firsthand like the rise and the fall of UGC, where UGC is not now what it once was, because for one, there's AI influencers you can pay that look just like a real person. Why would you use a real person? I think there's still use cases for creators, absolutely, like no doubt. There's some amazing creators we have in Charlotte. There's some amazing personal brands we have in Charlotte. Those are always worth experimenting and testing with. But at least from my perspective, I think you have to kind of split your budgets between a creator like that and something like an in-person community that provides content as well. Like, for us, at least, a big part of our community is when you work with us, you get pictures or photos or whatever out of it, and we upsell our brands on branded videos specific for their brand that can be run through our community through ads or whatever that looks like. So again, that's my perspective. I'm very my lens has shifted a lot in these last couple of years. I'm very analog and community and event in-person marketing forward, but would love either of these guys' perspectives as well.
Thanks for. Is it alcoholic? Is there alcohol in it? No. Okay. So I'm gonna contextualize this because I was actually a seed investor. I was actually check number 4 or 5 on this drink called Update. I don't know if you're familiar with Update. Yeah. So Daniel came to me, 2021. It's now in Walmart. Kim Kardashian joined as a co-founder, but I was check number 5 or 6 on it. And the reason why was because in the world of crypto, people need to be 24/7, right? And caffeine, I don't particularly enjoy caffeine. I don't really like what it does to my system. And so when he came to me with an alternative, I was like, let me try it, right? So that experience of firsthand experience is really good. And call me crazy, call me hallucination, but I feel like you're not playing big enough. Just the way you asked that question, you're not playing big enough. I don't know what you're afraid of. But what I would say is whatever you're afraid of, go and nail that. my invitation to you today is like, I would say, how can you right now, today, land integrate your beverage into the Panthers for the opening season? Like from now until the NFL kickoff, how can you make yourself like a beverage choice of them? Whether it's through the owners that they co-invest in you, because right now non-alcoholic drinks is the vibe, right? The people still want to feel a buzz, they still want to feel some form of euphoria, whatever. Adaptogens do that. And so if you become like the non-alcoholic brand of whatever team, right? Whether it's the Hornets or the Panthers or the Knights, whatever it is, attach yourself to that credibility first and foremost, and then just really just hand out your product. Really, like I don't know what you can lose in terms of your marketing dollars, but I would shift your marketing dollars into actually buying your own product. So instead of spending $10 to acquire a customer, just literally buy your own product from yourself and give it away for free. Like literally stand in the corner of the street and just hand it out, or hire a couple like sorority girls at college campuses and start handing it out to parties and sorority parties and fraternity partner parties. Like you want to seed this into the human consumption. Like I I can't tell you enough how many people are so focused on digital when they have an IRL product, where really your main goal is to just get the product into the people's hands as fast as humanly possible, because it's literally a binary result. I either love it or I don't, right? I'm either going to respect your hustle or I don't, right? So but if you get lazy and you start doing ads and you're like, how come I'm not driving the sales of it? Well, I haven't tried your product, number one. I don't have the credibility of your product first and foremost. But if I see an ad or I see it from the Panthers promoting their season tickets, like every season ticket holder, this is an actually, can we go into this really quickly?
Sure.
So here's how I would pitch the Panthers, right? I'd walk in and be like, look, listen, I will give you 1,000 cases for free for every single one of your season ticket holders. The first 1,000 people to buy a season ticket for the season, I want to gift them 1 or 2 cases. Right? What have you done there? Multiple fold things. You brought a value proposition to the Panthers. You're now gifting something that goes beyond that precision sale of a ticket. Oh my God, I'm getting free something. Oh, what is this drink? Oh, I just got it from the Panthers for free. Right? They're gonna hand it to their kid because it doesn't have alcohol. They're gonna study. They're gonna drink it, whether they're golfing, whether they're going to the party, whatever. Or they may give it away because they don't want to drink it. But now you have a distribution strategy. All right. Number two, you now have what I like to call ultra high net worth individual tasting your product. To buy season tickets, it's not cheap, right? And so if you're giving away 1,000 cases and there's 1,000 buyers, all you need is 100 people, maybe even 50 people with a net worth of $5 to $10 million, right? Which is very realistic at those ticket prices, to actually love your product, right? And don't ever underestimate the 2 people that I'm about to highlight to you. The internet, it's 65% white girl. No, it's real. Like I'm telling you right now, 89% of purchases in the household are made through the wife, right? So you should be targeting literally girls at sororities, college age girls that need this adaptogens to feel good, study well, things of that nature. And then also the mom at the bar class, at the paddle club, at the tennis club, right? Like you should find out Carmel Club, or what's the other one here that's like super bougie or whatever it is. Anyways, find out these places that have like high net worth, high impact people that you can actually just drop off the hey dude, listen, I know you run the club. I'd love to gift every single one of your clients for tennis for the next week these drinks. Just put the fridge here. I'll put it here at no cost. If you like it, great. If you don't, I'll come pick it back up. If nobody touches it, give me 72 hours. If people like it, amazing. But now you're actually spending your marketing dollars on actual data point versus some esoteric algorithm that's going to push it regardless. But now you have a binary result, right? This works or this doesn't. And that's the way I would approach it. You're going to have to go like old school sales, and you're going to have to like give out your product like it's no tomorrow. I hope that helps or clarifies it. And if I'm wrong, please just be like, yo, you're full of shit. Like, it's okay.
Just adding to that real quick, two of our biggest sponsors of Chili Coffee Club, Red Bull and Celsius, like two of the biggest canned drinks in the world, arguably, putting them against each other right now to kind of get an exclusive sponsorship, but both of them have one metric and one metric only they care about at our events, and that is how they pay us, and that is cans and hands. That is like the only thing they care about. They don't care about their logo anywhere. They don't care about being shouted out on Instagram. That doesn't get them sales. It doesn't get them people trying their product. Red Bull specifically was like, do not put our logo on stuff because that's just not our MO. All we want is pictures of people with Red Bull products in their hands, sipping them, trying them, etc. So, I mean, you know this, you've come to our events and handed out cans. It is the most powerful way to get somebody to try the product and say like, damn, this Alturo is really good. Like, and it's non-alcoholic and I feel energized after that. So just reinforcing kind of what Alejandro said.
There's a fun case study that I love, and the founder of Red Bull, actually, this is why it reminded me of. He would take the cans that were damaged that you couldn't fill up, and he put them inside garbage cans at college campuses. Like, think about that. They were gonna be thrown away anyways. But anytime you look inside the garbage, you saw Red Bull and you're like, wait, what? Like, oh shit. So think about like the creative things, a way of doing it, and like trust your intuition. Like, I can't tell you how many times, like, the more data you have, the less likely you are to make a decision as an investor, right? And also as a founder, you gotta let go of reality. You gotta be delusional. So you have to push that delusion forward and make sure that people are seeing your product, tasting your product. They want to see it everywhere, IRL, not digital, especially when it comes to a drink.
Yeah, really good advice, guys. Yeah, in real life and community-based events as a way to like push your product forward and really get people to feel and touch your product. So great advice. Fitz, did you have anything you wanted to add from like a creator standpoint? Because I think there was part of the question related to creators.
For me, the only thing that comes to mind when you're talking about like, you know, you're in those root stages of your product. I think we've had you at a Content Sunday before, actually. Great stuff, right? But the thing is, there's a lot of companies who are in that same stage, who are showing up. I think from a marketing standpoint, aside from literally handing your product out and asking people to buy it, the other thing is the story. Especially nowadays, if you go through at least my Explore page, you know, I'll see a million brands that are selling a product, and the things that stand out the most are the ones that are telling or showing, excuse me, and asking the least about their product. Like, you don't need to tell me to buy it. You don't, like, I know that your product should be great, at least because you're trying to sell it. You don't need to tell me to buy it. But what stands out is the story, and then you're creating the culture around it. And then I'm interested in it, not even just interested, I'm also invested in that forever. You've told me an incredible story through visuals or just storytelling in itself, and then I care about the person behind it. I care about why it exists. I care about why I should also take part, rather than you just telling me, hey, try this stuff, it's great. I would hope it's great already, you know? So I did a job over the summer with a sports brand, I think last year, and in their ads, they just kept asking us to click or type in, excuse me, on the video, buy now, like product available now, blah, blah, blah. And initially I went into the idea of, no, let's make this creative. Let's make it cool. Let's make it fun. Let's like tell the story of why you exist, why someone should care. And their rebuttal was, no, we want people to know it's available now. And that was a whole rift. And unfortunately, it never did that well because, again, back to my point, you don't need to tell anyone to purchase it per se. You need to tell the story first, get those people invested, get them to care, and then they're going to tell people to buy it.
Yeah, the theme that I heard in everybody's answers is really like leading with value first. And even what you just said there, Fitz, it's not about, you're not selling the beverage itself, you're selling this, like how it's going to make you feel and how you're going to experience this drink rather than alcohol. And so it's how they feel rather than drinking alcohol, not the beverage itself. And so, yeah, great comments, guys. I know we've been going for an hour and a half here, so we'll kind of conclude with that. And, you know, just thanks to Fitz, Justin, Alejandro, great wisdom, and thanks everybody for partaking today.